Jackson Systems is your controls expert in the HVAC industry. With our top-notch technical support and customer service, we make life easier for you, the HVAC contractor. We offer free trainings on any products sold here at Jackson Systems, along with our filter fetch program, free thermostat and printing, home and business automation with connected sensors, cameras, and even smart stats from Nest, Ecobee, Honeywell, White Rogers, Google, and more. Visit us at jacksonsystems.com to see the products that continue to win industry acclaim among contractors worldwide. Jackson Systems, controls done right.
Welcome to another episode of Israel HVAC Podcast with me, John Israel. Don't forget, you can download the podcast on Android using Podcast Addict. If you use Apple products, use the podcast app. All right, everybody, welcome to the Israel HVAC Podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk to Tom Jackson, who is the CEO of Jackson Systems. If you don't know about Jackson Systems, you're really going to enjoy this episode. It's a great interview with Tom. Tom's a great guy. Jackson Systems is a sponsor here of the Israel HVAC Podcast. Basically, Jackson Systems, they do all kind of things. They do zoning, they do thermostat printing. They put your name on the thermostat and all that, and they have this filter fetch program that is just awesome that you'll hear Tom talk about in the interview. But before we get into the interview, we'll do like we always do. We're going to kind of shoot the breeze here a little bit. I got Candace back in here with me. Candace hasn't joined me in a few weeks, but she's joining me tonight because I'm going to talk about a little something. I've talked about it. I've made a YouTube video on it on my channel for those of you that follow me on YouTube. If you haven't followed me on YouTube, you can go to my YouTube channel. It's Israel HVAC on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in Israel HVAC. We're going to talk about something a little different in this opening. Something that is hard for me to discuss, and, it's one of those things. So, before I do that, Candace, how's it going?
Good. Busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Work's been very busy. Just your basic stuff. Nothing too exciting. Been swapping out a lot of condensers lately. Finding a lot of bad compressors this year. But what I want to talk to you guys about is, before we get into all that, guys, I recently went to the, doctor and got some pretty bad news. I've been battling with my weight for several years now, for most of my adult life. For those of you that follow me on YouTube, you'll know that I, over a year ago, I posted a video saying I was going to have the gastric sleeve surgery and, for the weight loss and all that, and it just didn't work out because of the money. I don't have health insurance because I can't afford it, and most Louisiana insurance policies don't pay for this procedure anyway. Basically, went to the doctor, got the test results back from the blood work. I'm borderline diabetic. I have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and I have sleep apnea, which I knew. And basically, the test came back a lot worse than they normally do. I've had high cholesterol for a while, but it's gotten worse. I've had high blood pressure. I usually don't have high blood pressure, but it's getting worse. And so we, over the years, I haven't been able to afford the surgery, so we've tried diets. I've tried medical observed diets by my doctor. Nothing seems to work, and basically, Kenneth's created a GoFundMe account because they don't have insurance and I can't afford the surgery. So we figured that the last thing that we could do is just ask for some help, even though we don't want to, because I myself don't like asking people for help. We don't do that. We're not rich, but we're just a normal family that makes ends meet. People think just because you own a business, you're rich, but that's not true. Any business owner will tell you that. But This is the only other thing I knew to do was to swallow my pride and ask for some help. I figured it couldn't hurt anything. Kenneth has created a GoFundMe account. You know, I know it seems like we're asking for a handout, but I that's really not what we're doing. I mean, we are asking for help, but you know, we're not like that. If you're interested in donating, you know, we would definitely appreciate it. If you can't, we completely understand. You go to my YouTube channel, upload a video. You'll see it. It's called HVAC Brothers, I Need Your Help. There's a link to the GoFund account where you can donate. There's a link to that site in the description. If you don't follow me on YouTube or you don't know how to look for that or whatever, and you want to help out, you can email me here on the podcast at Israelhvac Podcast at gmail.com. Again, that's Israelhvac Podcast at gmail.com. So I posted all this on Facebook, and you know, there's a lot of guys out there that are really negative. You know, they'll say, oh, well, you know, this, you need to try this, you need to try that. You know, and I got a lot of nasty comments about it too, and that's okay, you know, because I'm used to that. And a lot of guys say, you know, don't have surgery. Use that as a last resort. Well, guys, this is a last resort. You know, never in my life would I ever thought that I would have had to reach out for help like this to have a procedure done. But it's for my health, my life, and my family. So believe me, this is last resort. I have tried just about everything. Like I said, I've tried you know, I've done diets that have been monitored by a doctor. I did one that was so intense that they had to do an EKG on me before they would start the diet, because that was the shock that my body was going to go in. We did that for a few months, you know, about 6 months, and nothing happened. You know, I lost about 10 pounds in 6 months, and that's just not good. So basically, she told me that, you know, I need to find a way to get this procedure done. And I told her I couldn't get it done. So I talked about it with Candace, and we figured that this was the last resort. We didn't know what else to do. But the reason I have Candace in here is because a lot of guys are saying, oh, well, you know, you're going to have, you know, you need to try to do something else, because if you have the surgery in 4 or 5 years, you'll be right back where you are. Well, you know, that's not true. And I'm going to let Candace touch on this here in just a minute, because Candace is a person that has had this procedure that I need to have. She had it 4 years ago. She's lost over 150 pounds. And she's keeping it off. She's doing great. You know, I have to make a lot of life changes, and I'm prepared for that. You know, one big thing that I have to do is I have to quit smoking. You know, I've been a smoker for a while, but the doctor won't perform the surgery if you smoke, and I'm fine with that. You know, I'm going to put him down. I have no choice. But I'm going to let Candace touch on this stuff, you know, because there's a lot of people saying, oh, you know, you're going to, you know, the surgery, it only works for a few years, and then you end up putting all the weight back on. So Candace, as somebody that's had the surgery before, you know, why don't you talk about what you went through, and it's been 4 years.
Whenever I started this journey 4 years ago, I was 280 whenever I went into surgery, the day of surgery. And, you know, I did have complications that with every surgery, you have a dangerous risk of dying. They have to say that because, you know, it's that 1% that you might pass away on the table.
Yeah, but
But they have to tell you that. That's with every surgery. It doesn't matter if you're going under for 2 minutes or, you know, 2 hours.
Yeah, but they said that the percentage when we went to your
retreat?
No, to your seminars and all that, the death risk was a 0.1.
Yeah.
Not even a whole %. It was a 0.1% of death.
But you have to have other stuff going on that, you know, they usually say it's in older people, like, you know, in their 60s, 70s.
Right.
Or they have, like, 100 other problems and they're going to have the surgery.
Right.
But I did have a little bit of trouble with the surgery. I was supposed to stay one night. I stayed a week because one of my lungs collapsed. And, you know, that was...
But that had nothing to do with the procedure. That was anesthesia.
Yeah, that was anesthesia. I had, you know, that one of my lungs collapsed. That wasn't, you know, anything with the surgery. Whenever I came out of the surgery, you know, you're on liquids for the first week. Then, you know, you have to get so much protein in. I can guarantee you I could eat, you know, I ate plain baked potatoes, stuff like that. And I would eat maybe... I mean, I wouldn't even eat as much as my 3-year-old son, and he doesn't eat a lot. He is very thin, and he doesn't eat a lot at all.
But to get to the point...
Would
you say that the people that have been saying, you know, after 4 or 5 years, you're going to be right back in this...
it depends on if you follow what the doctor tells you, and you don't overeat. Now, if you keep overeating... Yeah, I get sick and I throw up. At first, I threw up a lot because I didn't know when to stop.
But you have to learn.
You have to learn what you feel, because if you overeat, you're gonna throw up. And if you keep, there is people that has gained all their weight back because they just keep eating more. And they keep making themselves throw up. And yeah, your stomach is a muscle. It can stretch back out. But if you follow what the doctor tells you and you follow up on your follow-up appointments, and you really want to do this, because this is not a cure-all. It's a tool that helps you. But you still have to work on it. You know, you still have to work and, you know, do your part for it to work right. Okay, as me, no, I didn't plan on getting pregnant 3 weeks after my surgery, but I did. But still, I've kept off the weight that I've lost after having 2 kids, you know, where I could just eat whatever. Actually, I lost weight with both of my pregnancies. And with Jace, we didn't find out till I was 6.5 months because I was still losing weight.
Right. Now, none of this is HVAC related, guys, and I apologize about that, but I'm just kind of, you know, giving you guys a background here. So, Candace, it's been 4 years. You've lost over 150 pounds. How do you feel compared to what you used to be?
I have a lot more energy. I never really had sleep apnea. I mean, they said, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never really snored a lot. I was tired a lot. I mean, I know maybe a lot of people are lazy, but I was just lazy because I was so big I didn't want to do anything. And, like, life was eating. That was my life. Eat. I always thought about eating. Now, it's, you know, you have to change that, but I don't live. You eat to live, not live to eat. And you have to turn that on your mindset of, I eat to live, not live to eat.
Right. And getting back to the danger, guys, a lot of people ask, is the surgery dangerous? Like Candace said, there's a risk with any surgery, but it's a 0.1% chance of death. When Candace went in, that was one of my concerns. I asked the doctor at the seminar, I said, how many patients have you lost in this surgery? He said 1. And he said that he lost her, not due to the weight loss surgery. He lost her because of other complications. She was an older lady, and she had other health issues. And her weight caused the other health issues, but she waited too late to have the procedure. She was already in bad health. And he told her that her risk of death after the procedure was higher than normal because of her history and her age. So that's a pretty good track record right there. This guy's been doing these surgeries a long time. He's only got 1 death on his record. And it's because of the woman's age.
Whenever I had it, they had been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
And do you remember at first I wanted to get the lap band? I didn't want to get the sleeve, but they pushed me towards the sleeve because they said with a lap band, it's a foreign object. And maybe the guys that are saying that you'll be back in this situation in 5 to 6 years, maybe those people had the lap band because the lap band is a foreign object in your body. And if your body rejects it, it will deteriorate it and break it. And yeah, you will gain all your weight back. That's why they said it's a lot of maintenance because you got to go get it tightened, loosened, all that. That's why they turned me towards the sleeve. And they said, I was like, well, what's y'all's record of how good it works? And they were like, well, we really don't know because we've just been doing it for 10 years. I took the risk and did it, and now that's what everybody's doing. They don't even want to do, they don't want to do the lap band, and they really don't want to do the gastric bypass. They really like the sleeve out of the whole thing because they said they've had good success with it with people that had been 15 years and more.
Right. I just want to explain that, Candace knows the tricks, and it would really help my life. So like I said, I know it sounds like I'm asking for a handout or whatever, and you can take it how you want, but that's definitely not the case. I'm just trying to improve my health. So again, whatever you can do would be greatly appreciated. If you're interested in donating, like I said, let me know at Israelhvac Podcast at gmail.com. So we're going to get into this interview with Tom Jackson here in just a minute. But before we do, on my end, this week, I always talk about what's been going on. There's really nothing special been going on. Like I said, I've been seeing a lot of bad compressors this year, more than normal. A lot of them are due to non-pumping. They're running, but they're not pumping. They're drawing low amps and not pumping. I'm actually swapping one out tomorrow that's doing that. And other than that, it's just been, basic service calls, no cools. Got to change out coming up next week. And that's really about it. But again, I hope you guys didn't get bored with the opening, talking about this procedure and stuff, but I wanted to get it out there, and I want to thank everybody for the support, and I want to thank everybody that has donated. A lot of people have donated a lot of money to help me, and I can't thank you guys enough. It means the world to me. So, again, thank you very, very much. There's not enough words. It's a very emotional time right now for our family because I do need to get this done. But anyway, let's get into the interview with Tom Jackson. You guys are really going to enjoy it. You're going to learn a lot about Jackson Systems. Take a good listen to the interview and then check out Jackson Systems at jacksonsystems.com. Thank you guys again for the support, and let's get into the interview with Tom Jackson. All right, guys, I'm talking with Tom Jackson from Jackson Systems. He's the CEO of Jackson Systems. Tom, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight, John.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and speak with me.
Sure. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm still pretty new to the whole podcast world, but I've this is my fifth one here in the last month or so they're a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to doing this one with you tonight.
Well, good, man. So which ones have you been on so far?
Well, we did the Working Joes,
right,
and then I did one called HVAC Ladder,
right,
and did one technically unrelated to the HVAC industry. It was more about the just HR in general and how do you hire the right people. And then doing yours this evening, and then I'm missing one there that doesn't come just escape me there for a second. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, and each one's been different in how they approach it, and the hosts are always a lot of fun to get to know, and it's amazing, especially when you're talking about the HVAC industry. We're kind of in our own little world, especially at Jackson Systems, because we're so we're so focused on what we do, since we don't sell equipment or supplies or anything like that. We're strictly controls. It's fun to get out there and kind of meet people that have a bigger, broader view of the industry than we do. So
Right.
I enjoy this opportunity quite a bit.
Yeah, well, the podcast we started a few months ago, and we really enjoy it. Me and Zach started them, and well, I mean, there's been others before us, but we decided to get into it.
Sure.
And we've really had a lot of fun, and we appreciate people like you, that help us out and sponsor the podcast, and but tell us about Jackson Systems. What is Jackson Systems?
Sure, I'd love to. Just to give you kind of a little bit of history and how we got to where we are, and then we can talk a little bit about, currently what our main focus is.
Sure.
My father, Ron, who is actually still extremely involved in the business today, he still works 60 or 70 hours a week.
Right.
He's literally been doing HVAC controls his entire life. He started learning about HVAC. He went to a technical high school here in Indianapolis, started his HVAC career in high school, actually continued his studies even while he was in the Air Force. And then when he got out, he went to work for a company called Barber Coleman. And if you've been around 20, 30 years, that name probably rings a bell with a lot of people. Barber Coleman was one of the big three control manufacturers in the country. There was Barber Coleman, Honeywell, and another company called Powers. And as the story goes, Honeywell was always considered the marketing company, and Barber Coleman was always considered the engineering company. So my father was the service manager for Barber Coleman here in Indianapolis, where we're headquartered and live. And
Okay.
he worked for Barber Coleman for 5 years, and then after that, he actually started a company called Jackson Control that's still in business today. My father has no involvement with the company. He sold his ownership back in the 80s. But Jackson Control was actually one of the very first independent Honeywell distributors in the country. So back in the 60s, back when you did controls, it's a lot different than especially on the commercial side, than what we do today, where we've got DDC, and we've got basically little mini computers that run everything. Back then, they would build these gigantic control panels with relays, and these things were probably 4 foot by 4 foot, and it took 6 guys to hold it up on the wall to mount it to the wall.
Right.
So he built big, huge custom control systems for commercial buildings, and he had a successful, and he also distributed products. So contractors all around the state would come to him for parts, especially the control side. So he did that for about 20 years, and then like I said, he sold that back in the early 80s, and then he decided that he really loved inventing, and so he turned into a full-time inventor. Basically, he did lots of things. He invented some tools and some chemicals and some other things, but his passion was still HVAC controls. So he developed a zoning system, and he took that and sold the rights to a company called Interstat, which was based out of Ottawa, Canada. And Interstat eventually became part of the Robert Shaw Group. So all the original zoning that Interstat had, a lot of people know Interstat. They were really big in the 80s. They had some really cutting edge thermostats, and my father, while he wasn't directly involved on the thermostat side, did develop all their zoning, and as I mentioned, that group became part of Robert Shaw after several buyouts and so forth, and even some of the original early Aprilaire designs came out of that Interstat group that my father was involved with. And then after that 12-year relationship, the royalty agreement kind of came to an end, or was coming to an end, and him and I had started talking, and we knew we wanted to do something again. I had got out of college, and I spent 4 years with a large distributor here in Indianapolis, Indiana Supply. That was the train distributor, and so I was an outside salesman for them for a number of years. And
Right.
him and I decided to start Jackson Systems. We started back in January of 1997. So we just celebrated our 20th year. And in the early days,
that's great, man. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We literally started, as the story goes, they show you the picture of the Hewlett Packard when they first started, or Microsoft. They're all working out of their bedroom or out of their garage. We literally started in my father's garage, and our desks butted up. We faced each other, our two desks. We had two little desks in his third car garage, and we would sit out there and build zoning and assemble dampers and all the things that we needed to do. So it was quite interesting in the early days, working out of a little tiny garage. But
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was. We quickly ran out of room when we started. As it took off, we had dampers just all over the place. I mean, we had him in the main part of the garage, in the office. We had him up in his attic, and he lived in a regular old neighborhood, and so whenever we need material or whatever, semis couldn't even drive back there, so we'd have to meet a semi somewhere where they could actually get into a parking lot in like a strip mall or something, and we'd have to throw the dampers off the back of the semi and leave them out in the yard, out in the common area at the strip mall, and we'd have to load them up in a pickup truck or minivan and haul them back to my parents' house. So I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore. That was not the most fun.
Meet Zoomlock, the 10-second flame-free refrigerant fitting from Parker. Reduce labor costs by 60% with no brazing, no flame, and no fire spotter. Discover how Zoomlock can help you be more efficient and productive. Visit Zoomlock.com for more information.
Well, Tom, I know y'all are really big into it, and I want you to talk about it but unfortunately, I don't have a lot of knowledge on the subject because we don't see it here. I know you guys are really big on zoning.
Sure.
Zoning is something that we just don't see here. Man, I've been doing this with Dad since I'm about 12, 13 years old.
Sure.
So I'm about 15 years into the trade. I think in 15 years I've only seen maybe 2 zone systems over here.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah. I don't know really anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I guess you could say I know the basics, but
sure.
I do want to learn more about zoning. I really would love to, but I know y'all are big on that. So if you want to explain what Jackson Systems is all about with zoning.
Sure. So we do. So when we talk about zoning, at least in our world, we're talking about forced air zoning. If you're from the Northeast, a lot of those guys that are doing wet heat, they're doing hydronic zoning. So they're using zone valves, and they actually are using water, and it is a different world than what we're talking about with forced air zoning. And we're a fairly small player in the industry, but the big player in the zoning industry is Honeywell. I think another big company that you guys are probably familiar with, I know they talk about it on Working Joe's podcast, is EWC.
Yeah, Ralph and Zach are they're real big into zoning, both of them, and they love EWC.
Yep. EWC makes great stuff. So that's a good choice. So April Air makes zoning, and then of course all the big equipment manufacturers, Trane, Carrier, all those boys also make zoning. But
I was actually unaware that April Air made zoning products.
Oh yeah, sure. Yep. They've got a complete line. Obviously, when you hear April Air, most people think about their air cleaners and their humidifiers.
Right.
But they've been doing
IAQ products.
Yeah, IAQ products. And zoning often gets lumped into the IAQ realm because if we're talking about, improving, air quality, one of the big components is also making sure that you're comfortable with the temperature. So a lot of times when contractors are talking about IAQ, zoning kind of gets lumped into that group. It kind of fits into there. It's a nice add-on accessory if you're talking to a homeowner. And also it can be a profitable thing for a contractor if in your neck of the woods, if they do offer zoning. Now it sounds like down where you're at, they don't offer a lot of zoning.
No.
But if you go into a home and you ask a homeowner if you've got uncomfortable rooms in your house, they're almost always going to say yes. There's always some portion of the house where people aren't comfortable, and zoning sometimes is a good solution. So what we do, just real quick, so we talked about the hydronic zoning like they do in the Northeast because they're using boilers. Ours is forced air, so we're just using traditional HVAC equipment, whether it be, you know, a gas furnace and an air conditioner or heat pump or dual fuel, whatever the case may be. And what we do is, with a single piece of equipment, we put the motorized dampers in the ductwork, and then we have a little control panel, and then how many ever zones you want to in your house. So say you had a 2-story house, which is common, you'd put a thermostat on the main level and a thermostat upstairs, and those 2 thermostats tie back into our little zone control panel. And we take I'll call it the input. Obviously, it's just a contact closure if it's calling for heating or cooling. We'll take that call for heating or cooling from each of the zones, and then our board will just make sure that the equipment's in the right mode. So if you had one zone calling for heating, one zone calling for cooling, obviously we can't run both at the same time. So our panel assures that we're in the right mode of operation. And then, you know, if it was a lot of panels that we manufacture now are first call priority. So if the first zone that called for heating, the panel would actually be in the heating mode once, and then say another thermostat started calling for cooling, we'd go ahead and satisfy that heating call. And as soon as that was done, we would automatically change over and take care of the cooling call. And then beyond that, the only thing that we're really doing is making sure that, along with the equipment being in the right mode, that the dampers open and close the right way. Obviously, if you've got a zone calling for heating and the other zone's calling for cooling, or if it's not calling for anything, we want to shut that damper and only deliver the proper conditioned air to the areas that are actually calling for the heating or cooling. So, and our board handles all that logic. And as you know, anytime you've got a multi-story home, whether it be a basement or a 2-story home, or you have a big ranch where maybe the furnace or air handler is on one side of the ranch, you got a master bedroom that's clear on the other side. A lot of times you can have pretty big discrepancies in temperature from one floor to the next. I mean, it's not unusual for people to tell us they've got a 12 or 15 degree temperature difference between upstairs and downstairs. Hot air rises, and that's just Mother Nature and the laws of physics, and you're not going to overcome that. So zoning is a great way to do that. You know, if the downstairs is comfortable, but you're baking upstairs because that hot air is rising, well, let's not send any of that conditioned air downstairs where they're already comfortable. Let's send it upstairs where you need it, because that's where, you know, everyone's sleeping or whatever the case may be. So
right. So y'all actually make y'all's own zone products, as it boards, dampers, and all that.
We sure do. Yep. We manufacture it all here. The vast majority is manufactured right here in Indianapolis, where we're located. We do get some of our sheet metal out of Florida, and then the printed circuit boards themselves. So the actual board, you know, the printed circuit boards made up in Fort Wayne, which is a big city up north of Indianapolis, and they'll actually do what they call the stuffing of the components. They'll put the relays and the capacitors and everything in there, and then once they do the stuffing, they send those back to us, and we do all the final assembly. So, but the vast majority of it is done right there in our headquarters in Indianapolis. All the dampers are assembled there in Indy. So yeah, and it's all if it's a patentable product, we actually do all the patents. We do all the engineering. You know, we develop a lot of products outside of the traditional zoning that, you know, we may only sell a couple hundred of a year because someone will request some kind of special control. And in that case, we wouldn't patent it. It wouldn't make sense to spend the $10,000 or $15,000 it takes to patent a product. But if it's one of our bigger products that we think we're going to be successful with, then, you know, we'll actually go through the whole process, and we do all that in-house. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
So do y'all sell to like straight to the contractor, or do y'all sell to supply houses? Or?
Well, we actually do both.
Okay.
So Jackson Systems, as most people know us, Jackson Systems does sell direct to contractors. So we manufacture the zoning and then sell to the contractors. Now we started another division which will be spun off to a brand new company eventually called IO HVAC controls, and that will actually become the true manufacturer. We're going to move that over there, and then that particular group, our IO group, actually does sell through wholesale distribution. So they've got, the traditional R.E. Michaels or Johnstones, or whoever the case may be. So that particular group does sell through distribution. But most people know us over the last 20 years. Our reputation's been built on this contractor direct model, which we'll continue to do. So.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great, man. I definitely learned a lot of. That was some great information. I did not know any of what you just said. So, another thing that I hear people talking about too, that I'd like you to talk about is the filter fetch program.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Can you explain exactly what that is?
Well, yep. So we're always looking for. We've got a couple of programs, filter fetch being one. The other big one is our thermostat and printing program. But
we're going to talk about that next.
Yep. So we're always looking. We're huge believers in wanting to make sure that the contractor is the brand. In other words, when we don't want the contractor to. We really want the contractor to go out there and promote themselves and the quality service and the relationship that they have with the homeowner. We don't care. We don't want the contractor talking about Jackson Systems. We don't want the contractor talking about Honeywell or White Rogers or Trane. Right. We want the contractor to be successful because they're the ones that has a relationship with the homeowner. Right. And so filter fetch came about because and basically what filter fetch is it's a way to allow the HVAC contractor to get back into the filter business, because we kept hearing when we do a lot of trade shows every year. We would always hear contractors talking about, well, they're losing the filter sale business to Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or a Walmart, Amazon, whoever the case may be. The homeowners have figured out that they can go online and buy filters, and so we wanted to try to figure out a way that we could allow the contractor to get back into that filter business and make it a profit center. So the basic premise on how filter fetch works is you sign up with us. We give you a code when you sign up for filter fetch. So each contractor has their own unique code, and then every filter out there has its own unique code. So if you sign up for filter fetch, when you go and do a service call or a sales call, we also have an app for filter fetch. Basically what you do is you talk to the homeowner and say, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, we'd love to show you our filter program, and here's how it works. And what we do is you sign up. We're going to issue you a code that is specific for your filter in your furnace, so you never have to go to the store again and worry about them not having it in stock and knowing exactly which size you need and what MERV rating. So what we do, Mr. Homeowners, we're going to give you this 8-digit code, and we're going to write it on here, and then you go to filterfetch.com. The homeowner does. They enter that code, and lo and behold, it pops up. When you enter that code, it pops up with the contractor's information. It'll have the contractor's logo and the exact filter for that particular homeowner. The homeowner enters their credit card information, and we, as Jackson Systems / Filter Fetch, will actually send those filters directly to the homeowner. We'll actually ship them via FedEx directly to the homeowner. And the cool thing about it, and why this is contractors are excited, once the homeowner signs up, the contractor never has to do anything else again, except for when they have the initial sign up. You go in and you set whatever profit you want to make. We tell you what the fixed cost is of the filter and the cost of shipping, so you know exactly what your cost is, and you go up there and you go into filter fetch on the portal, for the contractor portal, and you can set the price at whatever price level you want it. So say you're the one I always hear about, I don't know what it is about this particular filter, but Lennox has a real nice high-end filter. So if you're a Lennox dealer, they know. Well, first the contractor pushes that filter when they're selling a new system or whatever. If they're doing an upgrade, they'll sell this nice Lennox filter. But then the cool thing is that Lennox filter is unique. They can't go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and buy it.
Right.
So they can set the pricing at whatever pricing they want to make. So say that particular filter with freight cost, $20. Well, you can go in and set your sale price to that homeowner at $40. So now you're going to make $20 on that filter. And when you give that homeowner that code, that 8-digit code, it's going to bring up that exact filter, and we're going to ship it to them. And then once a month, whatever filters you've sold or homeowners have purchased over that month, we'll send you a check every month for the profit that you created through the Filter Fetch program.
Wow.
And what we also do is once the homeowner signed up, we do 2 additional things. One, we'll send them a reminder that it's time to change their filter. So if you sold them, say the homeowner wasn't interested in the high-end filter, they just wanted the inexpensive, 1-inch throwaways.
Right.
What we typically do in that particular case, we'll send them a box of 12 filters at once, just because they don't cost a whole lot, and shipping them is pretty expensive to ship one individual filter.
Right.
But what we will do is every month we'll tell them, hey, Mr. Homeowner, this is, Bob from ABC Heating. We just want to give you a reminder that it's time to change your filter. So please go change your filter. And then as we get close to the end of them using up how many ever filters we send them, we actually send them a different email that says, hey, Mr. Homeowner, it's time to repurchase your filters, and here's a direct link to buy your filters, and it'll be it'll be all branded from ABC Heating, and it'll be that exact filter for that particular homeowner. They click on the link, it takes them directly to that page. They enter their credit card information again, and we ship out the filters, and the contractor never has to touch anything. So it's a passive way to make some nice money. And we've got some contractors who have really started turning it on, and they're averaging a couple of $1,000s a month in just pure profit. We just send them a check for $2,000 or whatever the case may be, and they literally, once they got the homeowner signed up, they don't have to do anything beyond that, except for if they got a new customer, they're going to go see an existing customer they haven't talked to about Filter Fetch. They can go in there and talk to the new customer, the new homeowner about it. And we actually have a Filter Fetch app that's for the contractor. But what you can do is, say you're going to go do a service call, the app actually has two videos. So if you had a tablet, it'd be a little better on a tablet. But we got 2 homeowner videos that you can show to the homeowner while you're working on their furnace or air conditioner or whatever.
Right.
One explains why you should use Filter Fetch, the other, why the homeowner should use Filter Fetch, and then the other short video explains how Filter Fetch works. So while you're doing your work, the homeowner can become comfortable with the Filter Fetch program. So it's really all about allowing the contractor to get back into that filter business that sometimes has been a tough thing, as homeowners always, they're pretty savvy, and they're going out to the internet, and if they can figure out how to save a few dollars, they want to do that. But hopefully with this program, we're helping preventing that from happening.
Yeah, I mean that's an awesome program. I mean I'm gonna sign up for that.
Huh?
I mean
Awesome.
that's a great deal right there. I mean, like you said, we don't have to touch anything. It's I really like that.
Yeah, and the other thing, for the contractor, another really difficult thing that they have to deal with is, how do you carry all the filters that you need on your truck? There's so many sizes and so many styles. You got 1-inch throwaways, and then you've got April Air, and you've got Honeywell, Lennox, Dynamic. Everyone makes a filter, and we actually do carry the true OEM filters as well. So if you want a true Carrier filter, you want a true Trane filter, or true Lennox, or you want the actual April Air filter, we carry pretty much every brand and every size. Every once in a while, we'll run across a new filter that, for whatever reason we haven't run across it. So we'll work with the contractor to figure out who the manufacturer is, and we'll get a hold of the manufacturer, and we'll add it to the database, and so that way the contractor can go right on selling whatever brand of filter they like. So
right. I mean, like you said, I could confidently say that I don't carry one filter on my truck.
Yep.
There's just too many. So that's definitely a great thing. Right
yep.
there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and another thing that I do know that y'all offer is the thermostat branding and stuff. So how does that work? Y'all have like Honeywell Stats or Emerson
Yep.
or whatever, and you put the contractor's name on it?
Yep, exactly. Yep. So this was something my father and I actually discovered. We started doing this in 1998. We've come a long way. Back then, we actually sent the thermostats out to a local printer here in Indianapolis, and they did it. But since then, we've actually invested. We've got 6 printing machines, and then we also have a full-blown laser that actually makes the metal die. But the way that the thermostat and printing program works, and first the background on this, and we always ask the question. Of course, everyone knows everyone knows the answer. Well, if a homeowner has a problem with their HVAC equipment, say it's 100 degrees out, and all of a sudden they're getting hot in the home. Well, you ask the contractor, well, what's the only thing the homeowner knows to do? The only thing the homeowner knows to do is to go to the thermostat and
Right.
see if it's is it actually, do they have the temperature adjusted properly? And then if they do, after that, there's really not a whole lot that they can do. They're unless they're just extremely handy, they're not going to go out and start working on their compressor and checking charges and
Right.
all that. So really, about the only thing they can do at that point is, if they start becoming uncomfortable, is to call a contractor. And what we don't want them to do is to go to the internet and type in, go to Google and say HVAC contractors in Louisiana. We want we want on the thermostat to tell them exactly who to call. So
Right.
when you go up to the thermostat, what we do is it's a process called pad printing, and when you look at it, it looks like it's coming directly from the factory. It looks like it's coming directly from Honeywell. We use a real elegant gray imprinting, so it looks like it's coming directly from the factory with the contractor's name on it. And we actually put their logo, we'll put their phone number, their website, whatever the contractor wants, because we actually will send them they give us an idea what they want. They can email us their logo or whatever, and we'll send them a proof back. But we'll actually put on there exactly what the contractor wants on the thermostat. So it's typically a logo, their name, and a phone number. But then we actually will imprint right on the thermostat all of that information. So that way, when the homeowner goes up to the thermostat because they're having a problem, they see it right there in front of them, exactly who they need to call. And we don't want them going back to their computer to do a search. We want them to call you, the contractor that's installed this, so that
Right.
you have that, so you get that service work or that opportunity for a replacement system or whatever. And the other interesting thing is, you hear some different numbers, but it's somewhere between 5 and 7 years. A family will move. So what a great way, a family moves out of the house, a new family moves in, and you've already owned that relationship with that new homeowner, because they think that you're the official people that should be working on this HVAC equipment. So
Absolutely. It's also a great thing to stock your truck with these thermostats. That way, if you go on a service call and there's a bad thermostat,
yep, absolutely.
that'll keep that's even potential for an equipment change out later down the road.
Yep, absolutely.
Because the system breaks, they'll go to the thermostat, they'll see, your name and number, and they'll give you a call.
Yep, absolutely. And the best part of it all is it's completely free. We don't charge anything for it. The only thing that we ask is that you buy 6 thermostats at a time from us. But we're probably one of the largest thermostat distributors in the country. We carry pretty much every brand. Now we don't carry Train, and we don't carry carrier thermostats because they won't, they don't want to sell to us because they already have they already have their own market specifically for their dealers. But I mean, we carry Honeywell, White Rogers, Aprilaire, Ecobee, Nest, Lux, Brayburn, Pico. I mean, we carry pretty much every thermostat manufacturer there is. So no matter what brand of stat you like, we can probably imprint on it. There's a couple of thermostats out there that have actual glass fronts, like the Nest has a glass front on it. The new high-end T6 Honeywell actually has a glass front on it. And so if it's got a true glass front as opposed to plastic, we may have to imprint on the little plastic wall plate. But pretty much every thermostat out there now, we stock and can imprint, and like I said, we'll do it for free. To get started, you email us your logo, and we'll actually send you back a proof of what it's going to look like. And then we actually have a big laser, and we'll actually laser engrave a metal die of your logo, and we'll keep that on file. So whenever you order, we're good to go. Your first order probably takes us 2 days to get everything approved. We got to create the artwork and then send it to you, and you got to approve it. So that first time it takes a couple of days, but then after that, it's almost probably 95% of the time you order the thermostats that day, we'll imprint them the same day and ship them out, and we even pay all the freight. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
and the fact that you only require a minimum of 6 is fantastic, because I'm a Honeywell guy.
Sure.
And I checked into doing this through Honeywell.
Yep.
And I think their minimum was, I want to say it was 24.
Correct. Yeah. Their minimum is 24.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and Honeywell, as you mentioned, Honeywell actually does it. Will imprint thermostats. White Rogers will do it. Aprilaire will do it. But the big thing is that it's a pretty long lead time. Even
Absolutely.
if it's a couple of weeks, if you're a smaller contractor, that's pretty tough to wait a couple of weeks because you don't want to carry a bunch of thermostats. So the fact that our turnaround is so quick, that's a huge deal for the small to medium-sized contractor. So
absolutely, because that's something that I'm interested in. But I wasn't going to do 24 thermostats.
Yeah, no, that's a big commitment. That's a lot of money to tie up.
That's a chunk of money right there.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
So do you carry the new? Because while we've been talking here, I've been looking around on your website, and do you carry? I don't see it on the site. The new Honeywells, the T6.
Yep. We carry them all. I'm not sure why. Now I'm gonna run out there real quick myself and just make sure. And sometimes if you're at jacksonsystems.com and there's a little search bar up at the top, there right below where it says Jackson Systems Controls Done Right. I don't know if you see that.
Yeah, right.
Just type in T6 and you should see the 4 models that are currently available.
Yeah, you know what, Tom? I actually do see them now. I clicked on the wrong thing.
Ooh, I was getting nervous there.
But yeah, man, I'm a huge fan of that new thermostat. It's pretty much the only one I stock on my truck. The reason being is it can be programmable or non-programmable.
Yep.
And it can do, you can use it on a conventional system or a heat pump.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's the only stat I carry on the truck because, I can ask the homeowner, hey, you want a programmable stat or non-programmable? And no matter what they say, I can do it all on one thermostat.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm definitely going to, place an order with you on that too, on the T6 series.
Oh, awesome. Well, we appreciate it.
Yep. Well, Tom, I sure thank you for taking time out of your night to come in here and join me on the podcast.
Well, absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm really enjoying getting to know you and the rest of the gang over at Cowboys and Working Joe. So it's been a lot of fun.
It really has, and it's been a pleasure talking with you.
All right,
and thank you again so much, my friend.
All righty, you have a great finish to the week.
Sporlan Smart Pro R service tools are specifically developed to meet the needs of refrigeration technicians. All the benefits of our original kit, plus the Smart Pro R tools allow temperature readings down to minus 40 degrees, fit any diameter pipe, allow multi-coil superheat readings, and 10 times the signal strength. Find out more at sporlanonline.com.